Now, let's open the notes on GitOps. GitOps ArgoCD, not that one, the one, okay, so they are the same. So let's start by opening what is ArgoCD. I won't really stay here too much, but I will just brush through, okay?
Sure.
Now, Argo CD, as the word Argo and CD, it means that this is a tool that is used for continuous delivery. That is where we are getting the word Argo and CD. The CD stand for continuous delivery, okay? And this continuous delivery is to the production. And in our case, the production is a native cloud called Kubernetes. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So the reason Argo CD is a GitHub tool is because we are going to connect it with our repository that will be in the GitHub. So the desired state, remember now we are back to the same concept. The desired state, which is the manifest that contain the information about our application, are going to be stored in the Git as a Git repository. Okay. Now,
Okay.
the running state of the same desired state will be running inside the Kubernetes. Okay. So Argo CD is a tool that is in between. So its work is to make sure that our cluster does not drift away from the desired state. So it's going to be connected with our Git repository, and at the same time will be running inside the cluster. So its work is to keep our cluster always in the same state with the desired state. If the cluster happen to drift, Argo CD is going to take action and bring our cluster back to the desired state. Okay? So ArgoCD was actually introduced in the market by a famous company called Intuit. Let's go on the browser and let's Google Intuit. Intuit just is a browser. You just add another page and you Google the word Intuit. Intuit. You can just type, it's fine. So Intuit is a big company. You see, it's in the stock market. And actually, they are selling their stock. One stock is actually $684. So Intuit is the owner of two companies or two softwares that are very famous in this country. It is the owner of the TurboTax. Can you see TurboTax?
Yes.
So if you are working today, you have to use TurboTax next year. Maybe if you file your tax early, you're going to use it in January, February. If you file your tax later, then you're going to use it in April. So it is what most Americans use to file their tax returns. Now, it also owns another company called QuickBook. Okay. And QuickBook is used a lot by companies. You see? So it's able to help you to do your books very quickly. As a company, you can see your bottom lines numbers. So let's return. That is a company that came up with ArgoCD. We go back to the notes. So you can see it actually is a new tool. It started in 2018, and the reason they wanted the tool is to speed up, of course, their adoption to the Kubernetes cluster. However, they realized that we usually call them the Kubernetes native tools because this is one of the native tools that we have that we have today, which is part of the Kubernetes project. So they realize that most of the continuous delivery tools that they are finding in the market were not fitting their needs. And why is that the case? First of all, to start with, Intuit is a cloud-based software as a service company. So it offers a service, a software as a service. What does that mean? It means that it's just an app. You can go on the Apple stores, you can actually install and you can use it. That is technically what we call software as a service, okay? It had about 5,000 developers. And they realized that it was going to be very difficult, specifically to be able to manage the clusters. So they had different ways of coming up with clusters. They could use what we talked about, which is the centralized cluster, or they could use what we call decentralized cluster. However, they needed one tool that can be able to manage multiple clusters. Okay?
Yes, sir.
That was not the only issue. They also wanted to make sure that they can be able to control the teams. If you access this project, you don't have to have access to project B. And again, they wanted to make sure that each project is connected to the Git repository that has the manifest that is running that application. So they had very specific needs and they couldn't find a tool in the market that could satisfy those needs. And that is how they came up with the ArgoCD. Okay, so let's scroll down. So you're going to read the notes by yourself. Okay,
Yes.
yeah, so keep going down. You can see multi-tenants and multi-cluster. We saw that. And let's now look at observability. So I'm going to allow you to read because this is a main point so that you can be able to understand how ArgoCD works, even though when it comes to installing, it's very easy. It's just a command and we have it and then we run a few things. But before that, we need to understand a few things about the ArgoCD because it's not just ArgoCD, it has its own architecture, okay? All right, let's start.
Enable observability. Last but not least, the continuous deployment tool should provide developers insights about the state of managed applications. That assumes a user-friendly interface that quickly answers the following questions. Is the application configuration in sync with the configuration defined in Git? What exactly is not matching? Is the application up and running? And what exactly is broken? The
Yes, yes.
company,
Let's stop there. So they needed to have a better observability, okay? As
yes,
you can see from the simple cron job that we created, we couldn't be able to see these things. So they wanted to make sure that if we deploy an application, first of all, we have an interface, user-friendly interface that we can be able to see things. So what do they mean by the user-friendly interface? A good example of a user-friendly interface is our Jenkins console. Do you remember Jenkins console?
Yes, sir.
Yes, so that's a good interface because you can be able to see everything as it happens. So they wanted a tool that has a very good user interface that is friendly, and they could be able to see the following. The first requirement is that the application configuration is in sync with the configuration defined in the Git. What does that mean? It means that the desired state is actually the state that is running in the cluster. Okay? In simple terms, they wanted to make sure that the desired state is equal to the running state. That's what they are meaning by synchronization. If we say that two teams are synchronized, it means that they are doing everything almost the same. It's like naturally things are happening the same. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Now, they wanted that to happen. Desired state must always be equal to the running state. And if that is not the case, they wanted to know exactly what is not matching. That's so good because if we can know why we don't have the synchronization, then of course we can know what to fix. The next thing they wanted is that they wanted to know that this user-friendly interface will always show whether the application is up and running all the time. And if that is not the case, they wanted a platform that will be able to tell them what is broken. In an instance, you just look at it, you can know what is broken. Okay? And of course, they wanted this to be something that can be used in the enterprise world. That's how they came up with ArgoCD. Let's now see the key concept or the core concept of ArgoCD.
For concepts, in order to efficiently use ArgoCD, we should understand two basic concepts, the application and the project. Let's have a closer look at the application first.
All right,
Okay.
let's stop there. So for us to be able to understand the key concept of ArgoCD, we must know that the architecture of ArgoCD respects two concepts. The first concept is the application part of it, and the second one is the project part of it. So the ArgoCD is built upon two concepts, the application and the project. Let's go to the application side.
Application. The application provides a logical grouping of Kubernetes resources and defines the resources manifest source and destination.
Yes.
The main
So now I want us to look at this picture. So the application is the first part of the core concept of ArgoCD. So the application must have two things. One is the source. And what is the source? It's simply the Git repository. You get that? Because that is where we have stored the manifest, the Kubernetes manifest that is running the application. The second concept or the second portion of the application is the destination. What is that? Yes, we have the source. This is a Git repository that contains the manifest in the form of Git URL, but also we need the destination. What is destination? The destination is a specific is exactly where we are going to apply the manifest. Okay? And
Yes.
in this case, when we talk about destination, we are talking about two things, the cluster itself and the namespace. Why namespace? Because in the company, we don't just deploy resources in the cluster. Then you are letting the resources just float. Each resource must be deployed in its own namespace. So those are the two key concepts of ArgoCD, the source and the destination for the application. The source is the Git repository that contains the desired state in the form of Git URL. The destination is where we are going to apply the manifest that are inside the desired state in the Git URL. And the destination has to have two components. One, the cluster, of course, the native cloud, and the next one is the namespace where the resources will be deployed. Are we good up to this point?
Yes, sir.
All right. So there is nothing there. It's the same thing I talked about. So let's scroll down. Now we're gonna look at the project, okay? Now here we look at the application manifest. All right. So that's fine. All right. So we're gonna continue to read because there are some other things that are very vital here. The application destination define where the resources must be deployed, okay? And now this is nothing but it just include the API server. Remember we talked about the component of the control plane. We talked about the Kubernetes API server. We talked about the Kubernetes controller manager. We talked about the the cube scheduler. Then, of course, we talked about the etcd. So the destination is nothing, but you're just given the URL of the cluster API server, okay? Then, of course, you are also including the namespace that those resources will be deployed. That is all you need. However, you have to understand that ArgoCD has its own user-friendly interface. So when we deploy this application, what else are we looking for? And that is where we start to think about the synchronization and the health status. So let's read that. It's going to become very easy when we deploy because you see all these things. All right. Sync and health statuses.
In addition to the source and destination, the ArgoCD application has two more important properties: sync and health statuses. Sync status answers whether the observed application resources states deviates from the resources states stored in the GIS repository. The logic behind the deviation calculation The logic behind deviation calculation is equivalent to the logic of the kubectl diff command.
All right. So now, apart from us seeing the application part of the ArgoCD, which has the source and has the destination, there are also two other key components that are actually connected with the application itself, and that is the sync and the health statuses, okay? So when we talk about synchronization, all it does is that to make sure that your desired state is actually the same as the running state, okay? And it means that there is no deviation in the cluster. If you try to deviate the cluster, of course, ArgoCD will not allow you to do that. And by the way, you don't have access to the cluster because ArgoCD is the one that is supposed to do the continuous delivery, which means that it's delivering any changes that we are making to the manifest or to the desired state to the cluster itself, okay? Now, so we go down to the health status.
Health status aggregates information about the observed health status of each resource that makes up the application. The health assessment logic is different for each Kubernetes resource type and results in the following values. LD. For example, the Kubernetes deployment is considered LD if the required number of pods is running and each pod successfully passes both readiness and liveness probes. Progressing represents a resource that is not LD yet, but it's still expected to reach LD state. The deployment is considered progressing if not LD yet, but still with time limits specified by the processing deadline seconds 9 field. Degraded. The antipode of LD status. The antipode of LT status. The example is a deployment that could not reach a LT status within an expected timeout. Missing represent the resource that is stored in Git but not deployed to the target cluster.
All right, good. So I'm going to make this very easy. So we say that apart from the destination and the source, there are two other main components. We have the sync and the health statuses. Now, when we talk about the health statuses, this user-friendly UI, the user-friendly interface should be able to tell you upon looking at it, four things. The first thing is that if your pods are all running, then it should tell you that the health status of your application is healthy. Are we good? If we deploy and it's taking time for your pod, all of them to be in the running state, then it's going to tell you that your health status is actually progressing. However, the progressing status have a timeline. What do I mean? There is always a timeout. We cannot stay in the progressing forever. because again, we are dealing with application that customers are accessing. Maybe the timeout is 9 seconds. If all the pods are not running within 9 seconds, it's going to push you to the next health status is called degraded. So degraded is the opposite of healthy. It means that whenever you see degraded, you should be very worried because it means that none of your pond is working. Okay. Next
Okay.
is that we have missing. Missing means, yes, you do have the manifest in the Git repository, which is a desired state, but none of those manifests were actually applied in the cluster and the namespace. So remember those 4 health statuses. And as far as you know that, you're good to go. Next.
Missing.
Yeah, we
Represent the
already did
source.
that. We good. Missing is that there is nothing that was deployed in your cluster. Continue moving. You don't need to worry about that. We talked about that. We talked about that. We talked about that. So now that is the architecture. Okay. What is ArgoCD? So apart from this, the only thing I would like you to open is the GitOps. I want to just remind you what is GitOps. Then the rest of the note you can read about architecture. So now, whenever we talk about GitOps, is a concept which means that we are controlling the operation, what is happening in the operation through the Git. Okay. Anything that we're going to deploy in the cluster must always start from the Git, which means that Git is the only source of truth. Is the only source of truth. What does that mean? It means if I want to change the type of service in my manifest, I want to change from cluster IP and I want to change it to a load balancer. I cannot go to the cluster and edit the way we used to do. That's not accepted in the company. And at the same time, I cannot just edit and just deploy to the cluster. That's not good because what if I deploy the wrong thing and I affect the customers? So this is why when we are talking about the Git ops, it means that we have the Git and we have the operation. Anything we need to deploy, any changes we need to make in the operation has to start from Git. That's all that it means. So it means that for us to deploy anything in the cluster, we use the Git commit and the Git push commands. Do you get this? Are you able to get this? Or you're still a little bit confused?
I'm not confused.
All right. All right. So we're gonna do it so that you understand what this means, okay? All right. So that we are able to do this, it's better we just deploy, then we come and read these notes, okay? All right. So let's go click on deploy your first application. Is the last PDF. Yes. So now we're going to deploy our first application using ArgoCD. You have to know that ArgoCD is an enterprise-ready, well-battered tool for deploying to the operation. It's very lightweight, and we're just going to deploy it using maybe 2 or 3 commands. The installation is trivial and include a few simple steps. Okay. So now let's scroll down a little bit. Keep going down because I want you to see what we are going to follow. So this is the note that we are going to follow, okay? So we're going to have application name. We're going to keep going, keep going, keep going. We're going to have all this. And then, of course, we are going to create, okay? And now, of course, you're going to see things like this. And it will help you, of course, to understand what we are talking about, okay? So now, let's go up. All right. So now, copy this URL and paste it. You're going to copy this URL, or you can click on it, it's fine. If it's clickable, it's perfectly fine. And when you click on it, it should be able to open. And now we're going to follow simple instruction to install ArgoCD in our cluster, okay? The person who install ArgoCD is usually the Kubernetes admin. So you don't need to worry about it. You always meet it installed in your cluster. But again, you can be told to install, which is perfectly fine. So I'm going to take you through to show you exactly how to install. Then we'll come and do the concept of GitOps. And I think from there, you should be good to go. You're just going to practice more, and then we go from there. All right, so what do we do from here? Now, having opened this page, this is what we are going to follow to be able to install the Argo CD. Okay. Now, to start with, scroll down a little bit. We're going to start with number 1. Install kubectl command. You already have the kubectl. These are the requirement. Install kubectl. You already have that one done. Okay. Have kube config. You already configure the kube config. And by the way, we are not using Minikube. Minikube is not recommended for production. If you hear Minikube, Minikube is used for testing. It's a very small cluster. People use it to practice. If you go on YouTube, you see a lot of Minikube, but Minikube is too tiny. You cannot be able to relate to what happened in the company if you are using Minikube. Okay? This is why we started using GKE, which is a standard production cluster. Very good. Now, we already have our kubectl and we have our kube config. Yes, we do, because let's first of all go to our cluster. You're gonna come back to this page, but let's go to our cluster, connect, make sure our kubectl is working, and we make sure that we have the kube config. So this is used actually to bring our kubectl or to install our kubectl. Kubeconfig is going to give our kubectl or the cloud shell that we are using the permission to access our cluster. Okay. Use the open editor, of course, as usual. All right. All right. So now increase the size of the terminal and move it up. By authorizing, you're allowing the kubectl to be able to access the cluster. Okay. That's all you're doing. So now let's generate our kube config, the kube config that give our cloud shell the access to the cluster. You see now the kube config has been generated, okay? So those are the two requirements, the kubectl and the kube config. Let's look at the kubectl version. Kubectl version. All right. So you see now we have everything that we need. Now let's return back to the page for ArgoCD. Let's check something else that they need us to do. All right. So core DNS can be enabled. Let's check whether we have the core DNS. We go back to our cluster and we run the command kubectl hyphen cluster. No, kubectl cluster hyphen info. We go back to our cluster and we run the command kubectl cluster hyphen info. Are you able to follow my direction?
How things kubectl for the core DNS. Where is it?
we go back to our cluster. Core DNS, of course, they haven't told you what to do because they are suggesting you use micro minikube, which we are not using minikube. So to be able to check our cluster DNS, core DNS, we just need to run the command kubectl cluster-info. And it's going to tell us whether our DNS, core DNS, is enabled -info. I don't know whether if there is a space, I will have said a space. Okay, this is why I want us to carefully listen to the information, because if there is a space, I'll say kubectl cluster space -info. But this time I'm just saying kubectl cluster -info. There is no space. Okay, very carefully enter. And this is going to tell you exactly whether your core DNS or what we are calling the kube DNS is up and running. And as you look at it, you can see that the kube DNS, which is supposed to, its work is to resolve the DNS resolutions. You can see here that is actually up and running. Again, you can see our control plane. This is our API server. This is where you can access our cluster. So copy this HTTPS and paste it in a new browser and see what you get. This HTTPS, and which is our API server. Let's see whether you can access the cluster through it. Just add another browser and then you paste and see what will happen. All right. Okay, so it's not letting you because it's not secure. Why is it not secure? Because it's not using DNS. Yeah, it's using a HTTP. So try to refresh. Let's see whether it can allow you to proceed without having to say advanced. Refresh again. Try to enter instead of just refreshing. Do it again. All right, so now it's not letting you. All right, click on advanced. Let's see. All right, continue and save is fine. All right. So you can see that is forbidden, and that is exactly to tell you that our Cube API server is working, okay? So we good. So now let's return back to the cluster. All right, so we good to go. So clear the terminal. All right. So let's return back to we return back to ArgoCD installation page where we are supposed to, the page we are supposed to use to install the ArgoCD. Okay. Now, to install the ArgoCD, we first of all have to create a namespace called ArgoCD, where ArgoCD services and application resources are going to live. The second one will be to apply the manifest for ArgoCD, okay? All right, so we start by running the first command. You copy the first command, which is, yeah, you can copy both, it's okay. Just copy, it's fine. Then you go and you paste here and you enter. Namespace has been created, and now, of course, it's creating the custom resource definition. You see the services, everything that we need. So this is why it is said that it's a very simple way to actually install ArgoCD. See how quick it was. So clear this, and then let's check the pods in the ArgoCD namespace. All right, so you can see that, oh, one is not running. What is happening? Do we have enough resources? All right, we run that command. We should have everything running. Actually, that is the ArgoCD server. All right, good. Clear this. Let's check the services. If that server was not running, you'll not be able to access the UI. All right, so now let's check the services. Okay, that's fine. And again, all the services are up and running. Okay, now what do we need from here? You see the ArgoCD. So we have that, we have that. All right, we'll come back. For now, we don't have any load balancer, so we have to clear that. So we return back to the official page for ArgoCD. So far, so good. We have done quite well. So we scroll down slowly because we don't want to miss anything. We keep going. We keep going. So now here it is. We need to install the ArgoCD. We go now to number 2. So go down to number 2, download the ArgoCD CLI. Okay. Now, so now here is where we need to install the CLI for ArgoCD. So we are now in step 2. CLI, kubectl is a CLI for Kubernetes. ArgoCD also has its own CLI. CLI is nothing but that is the terminal, or usually this is the terminal that we use, the Kubernetes CLI. It allows us to run the Kubernetes commands. So when we install ArgoCD CLI, it's going to help us to run the ArgoCD commands. Do you get that? Yes. So now we are given the blue install, which is for MacBook. But when we check, let's go to our cluster and let's check our OS version. Our OS version. Run a command to check our our OS version. Okay. Which command did we use? CLI stand for command line interface. CLI, command line interface. How do you check the OS, operating system version? Do you see why you need Linux? This is why we started by going through Linux. How do you check the OS version? Do you remember? Try to remember. How do you check the OS version of our cluster? Do you remember this? I can't hear. All right, try to revise. Linux is very vital. So we're going to check, and to be able to do that, remember we used to run a command. You can either do, and all you need is to be able to see your OS version. There is a command we used to run, and you can do it you can do it in a different way, or you can simply just run one command. It was echo. You can use echo, or you can use cat. So let's use a cat because it's gonna show us the content because we are dealing with a file. Cat, the folder is etc we are etc, and what do we want? We want asterisk, or what we call a star, cut etc star, and then release. So try to revise Linux. So now you can see that we have Ubuntu. So that is our distribution. Our distribute is Ubuntu. So we clear this. So at least we know that we are running a Linux. Then we go back to the ArgoCD. ArgoCD. And now we're going to click on CLI again, stand for command line interface. Click on CLI installation documentation. CLI installation documentation. Yes, click on it. Now, this is going to show you different way to install the CLI for ArgoCD. So we're going to use the curl command. So scroll down. This is the command we are going to use. Download the latest version, okay? So copy this command. I don't know how you're gonna copy this. Does it have a place to copy? I think you can drag this horizontal. All right. All right. So we go and paste it and let's run it. So that's another thing you need to understand, how to install the ArgoCD CLI. All right. So it's installed. All right. So let's check ArgoCD version. It's installed fine. ArgoCD version. All right. Oh, that's fast. Clear this. So now we have the command line interface for ArgoCD. That was fast. Let's go back to the documentation and let's move to the next item in the ArgoCD. So we are done with that. Now we go back one step. And now we can go to step number 3. All right. In the step number 3 is access the ArgoCD API server. We saw that we don't have a load balancer. So there is no way we can access this. It's not gonna work. So how do we deal with it? All right. By default, the ArgoCD API server is not exposed with an external API. To access the API server, you have to choose one of the following techniques to expose the ArgoCD API server. Service type, load balancer. Change the ArgoCD service to a load balancer. So we're going to use this one, copy this command and go and run it. Awesome. All right, so now let's get the service in the ArgoCD namespace. All right, so you see it's pending, so we're gonna give it a little bit of time. It will come up and we'll be able to access it. So leave it as it is. Let's return back to the documentation. Next, scroll down. Then we need to do pod forwarding. Pod forwarding. kubectl pod forwarding can also be used to connect to the API server without exposing the service, okay? So you can also use this one without exposing the service. So you can connect with this one without exposing the service. So let's run the command, it's fine. Awesome. So now you see, in this case, you are connected to the ArgoCD. You see it? Now you are connected to it. So you can also search for, you can now run ArgoCD commands here without necessarily having to go online and accessing the user interface for the ArgoCD. So you can access the ArgoCD without exposing it through the internet. However, that's not what we want. So we click on Control Z. All right, clear this. Let's rerun the command to check the service. Awesome. Now load balancer is in. So we go on we copy the load balancer external IP. We go on the browser and access the user interface of ArgoCD. All right. All right, click on advance, continue. Now finally, we have, this is what we were calling the user interface, okay? When we were talking about the ArgoCD user interface that Intuit wanted to have so that they can see the application, they can see the sync and the health statuses, we are going to see all of them here, okay? Then we'll revise the notes step by step, looking at what we have, and I think that will help you a lot. Now, username, we return back to the documentation.
Why is it not safe? Why is it not secure?
Because we are not using, we don't have a certificate, okay? We don't have a certificate. Certificate means is not in the form of HTTPS. It's just a HTTP, okay? So anything that is not HTTPS is going to say not secure because it's missing what we call SSL certificate. However, in the company, the ArgoCD you'll be using will have the SSL certificate, okay?
Okay.
All right, so getting started, click on ArgoCD again, and now we go to the number 4, which is logging in. And logging in, the initial password for the admin account is auto-generated and stored as a clear text in the field password in the secret, so you can access the secret and get it. In your ArgoCD installation namespace, you can simply retrieve the password by running this. You should delete the ArgoCD admin from the ArgoCD namespace once you change the password. The secret server, no other purposes than to store, of course, the initially generated password. So you go down. So using the username admin and the password that was generated by this command, ArgoCD admin, you can be able to log in, okay? So
Yes,
we're going to copy this command called ArgoCD admin. And then we get the password. It's going to be stored in the secret. We already know that. And this is the password. You see this password, H1PUV something. So you copy that. That is the password. And the username is going to be admin. And you should be able to enter into the ArgoCD interface. That is password. Namespace is admin. It's very easy. And password exactly what you have. And now you can just sign in, okay? All right, so now here is ArgoCD. As you can see, it come looking like this. It looks so simple. This is what Intuit created. As you can see, this is the user interface. It's very easy to use, and you shouldn't have any issue. So let's create our first application. Our first application. Yes. So now, before we even move forward, I want you to understand that the core concept of ArgoCD has two things. It has the application part and has the project. The project helps us to control the access. It also helps us to be able to control from which repository is the application manifest going to be stored. So you have to remember that. So we can call it Nginx, it's fine. Nginx, project name, we can call it Nginx. Nginx hyphen application. But if we do that, all right, that's fine, that's fine. All right, we move forward. Policy. Synchronization means that if there is any changes in the desired state, how do we sync it into the cluster? This time we are using manual, but in the company is always going to be automatic, okay?
Yes, sir.
Remember that. So we're gonna leave it as manual so that we sync the changes ourselves so that you can have the experience. So we keep going. We scroll down, leave the other part alone. Don't worry about that. Now we go to the part of application, and now we have the source. Okay. Scroll down so that you can see the source. Are you able to hear me? Hey, Taye, are you there?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so now we are done with the general information, so we go to the source. So scroll down. All
This
right,
is source.
this is the source. Now, which repository do we use? We can use the same repository that we were using for our simple cron job. So let's go to that repository for our simple cron job. We can use the same, it's fine. You can get that repository in your Git. We had it, I think we were using it as, I think, was it the Nginx operator? Click on it, I think might be the one. It had only two things, the namespace and the Nginx YAML. So let's open the Nginx YAML. It's a more important one. Scroll down. Let's change this to a cluster IP instead of a load balancer. Cluster IP instead of a load balancer. All right. So now, after that, let's copy this URL. All right, we paste it here. Good. So the path, let's go back to documentation. So keep scrolling down. It's gonna try to show us how to do this. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. All right, so this is where we are, okay? Let's stop there. Application for it is calling a guest book, okay? We don't need to call it that way. Project, we need to change to default. Why? Default is always like the name of the project in ArgoCD. You can make, we're going to make our own namespace, but we haven't done so. So we're going to use default. So let's go and change that to default. You go up, call this default is fine. You scroll down. All right. Here is where we are. So let's return to documentation. We see what they are suggesting. Keep going. So manual is fine. So them, they are using their own. Headbook is fine. Path. They're saying we call it, for them, they want to call it guest book. Is it a must? We call it guest book. We can call the path, whoa. This is a, whoa. This is wrong for us. So, let's return back to the URL, to our Git repository. I want to show you because this is the source. So now, click on, this is gonna be wrong. This is going to be wrong, okay? All right, it's not gonna work. Let me send you the right repository. And which is fine. Anyway, we can troubleshoot it, or I can give you the right repository. So just a minute. Nginx, that's not correct, and I'll tell you why. This is the correct one. Should it be that? Is fine. I'll explain to you, okay? Now, you see, ArgoCD. Let's return back to our ArgoCD. ArgoCD interface. You see, it is saying the path. The path is supposed to be the folder where our manifests are. In this case, we don't have a folder. Yes, you are seeing Nginx operator repository as a folder, but that's not correct. So I want you to go ahead and just go ahead and clone this repository, and I'll show you the difference. It contains the same information, but is prepared in a way that is required by the ArgoCD. Clone it.
Which repository?
I just pasted in the chat. You see it? Open it and clone it. All right. So what can you see? You see it has a folder called Josh. So click on this folder. No, that's not the folder. The folder looks like it has an icon of a folder. So it's the same information, but it's inside the folder. So click on nginx.yaml. Change this to a cluster IP. But I hope you did fork it before you can do anything. Because if you did not fork it, you'll not be able to do it. You'll not be able to make the changes. All right, go ahead and change the IP address, the service type from load balancer to cluster.
From load balancer cluster IP.
Yes. All right, save this. Awesome. So now copy the So copy this URL. And you go and change it in the user in the interface. You change it, the repository URL. All right, head remain the same, but the path now has to change. Let's return back to the repository. The path is the folder name, Josh. As it is, you go and add it. All right. So now we have covered the first part of the application, because we say the application has two parts, the source and the destination. Now we go to the destination. For the destination, the cluster URL. So let's click on this down arrow here. The down arrow. So we go to use URL. All right. So now we have to decide which one to use. If this is not an internal, because this is in-house cluster, so it means ArgoCD is installed inside our cluster. We have to use a specific URL. But if ArgoCD is running as an independent server, we have to use the ArgoCD, the cluster URL that we got from kubectl cluster-info. Fortunately, our ArgoCD is installed in our cluster, so it's in-house. What do we do when it's in-house? We go back to the documentation. We scroll down. And this is what we use if it is in-house. It is https kubernetes.default.svc. So you copy that if it is in-house. That is an image. You'll not be able to copy image. You copy that as it is, and then you go and paste it inside the URL. URL destination is actually here. You just select it. All right, namespace. Namespace is the namespace that we want to deploy our application. And in our case, let's go back to our URL, our Git URL, and see the name of the namespace. The name of the namespace. It is dev, so we just go and add it as dev. In their case, they are saying default, but in our case, we want to use dev, okay? However, we can also use another thing here. Let's go back to the documentation. We can use default, but we have to run another command. Go down a little bit. No. Go up. Go up a little bit. All right, go down. All right, it's fine. We don't need to do that. All right, so scroll down. That is destination. And now we go back to our UI for our ArgoCD. ArgoCD user interface. We scroll down. There is nothing else to do. We keep going down.
Okay.
All right, so now you can go up and create this. I think at the top you should see create. Edit the manual, create. So if it's gonna create, so now this is how it is. I want us to just revise what we have gone through. So as you can see, the name is Nginx, the project is default, the status is missing. What did we say missing means?
And
Uh-huh.
there's nothing in it.
No. You can't say there is nothing in it. According to the note, we say that missing means yes, we do have the desired state in the Git repository, but it's not yet deployed in the cluster. Remember that?
Yes, sir.
Out of sync, what does that mean?
Out of sync.
Yes? Out of sync, it means that the desired state is not equal to the running state in the cluster, okay?
Yes.
Of course, we have the repository, which is the source. We have the target, we have the path where we can find our manifest. We have the destination in cluster, we have the namespace, and we have the created. Now, let's return back to our cluster. Go back to our cluster. Let's clear the terminal. All right, let's check the namespaces. All right, so you see we don't have the dev, okay? Because we haven't done the syncing. So we say there are different statuses. Let's return back to the ArgoCD user interface. So now there are statuses. We talked about statuses such as sync. This is out of sync. We talked about health statuses such as the healthy, progressing, degraded, and missing. In our case, it's missing because we haven't synchronized. So let's click on sync. Sync. All right. So when we say sync, it's gonna give us these opportunities. So we just click on synchronize. And when we click on synchronize, you see it's progressing. You see, this is also what we talked about, which is another health status. Now, after a given time, it changed to healthy. Can you see that?
Yes.
And also it is synced. So we have two things. We have the sync and we have the health status. Are we good up to this point?
Yes, sir.
So now this of ours is healthy. If it stayed in progressing, it could have become degraded, but before that it was missing. Now it is healthy and is synced. Are we good up to this point?
Yes, sir.
So we're gonna stop there, have a 10-minute break. When we come back, we finish. This is our last topic, okay? Then I'll give
Yes, sir.
you some homework. When you come on Tuesday, we prepare your resume. So let's have 10-minute break.
All right, sir.
Taye,
Yes, sir.
let's finish. So now, you see now exactly what we went through the notes is what we have now here, okay? We have the destination, we have the source, we have the sync and the health status. And for our application, the health status is healthy. It means that all the pods and services are running. Now let's click on sync up. You see sync up? Sync up at the top. Sync app. Uh-huh. Click on that. All right, so not really. That's not correct. So cancel this. All right. So now click on there's something I'm looking. So move up. Click on this Nginx. See this Nginx that has a Git Nginx here within the square box. You have the name Nginx. 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 Can you see Nginx or you're not able to?
Yes.
Nginx is here. I wish you
Right
can
here.
read Nginx. If you are reading what is in front of you, you should be able to see the word Nginx.
See right here.
Okay, let's listen again. The name of the word is called Nginx,
Yeah.
okay? So click on it. So when you click on it, it will give you like a diagram showing you everything about the app, okay? Now, healthy, yes, it's healthy. It's sync, okay? Let's scroll down a little bit. Also, it will give you like a diagram here. You see, it is telling you that the namespace NS is dev. Then it's telling you the service that is exposing this deployment is called Nginx service. And then, of course, the name of the deployment is called Nginx deployment. So everything is okay, okay, okay. So it means that it has been synced and everything is good to go, okay? Next, we have the Nginx service. We have the Nginx service, we have Nginx service. So we keep going, and these are all the pods. It's able to tell you exactly whether the pod are running, whether the pod is degraded, whether there is missing. But in our case, we can see that the pods are up and running. Are we good up to this point? So this is how easy it is. Let's click on the three dots. Come back to the Nginx service. Nginx service. And click on the three dots. 1, 2, 3. Nginx service. And then click on the three dot under the Nginx service. Nginx. The first thing is to listen carefully. Nginx hyphen service. You look at it, then you go and check for the three dots. Click on them, details, and you see it will give you a lot of information to tell you exactly what is happening. And type is cluster IP, is synced, is healthy. Scroll down, and it will give you information about the manifest itself. Okay, so you can edit it, but that's not how it's supposed to be done. So now exit. Okay, so let's now go to the cluster and let's check whether we have a dev namespace, whether we have the service, and whether we have deployment, okay? we go back to the cluster. I think you are missing to listen to me. We go back to the cluster and we check whether we have the dev, the Nginx service, and the deployment, okay? Not on the ArgoCD user interface. Now, let's first of all start by checking the namespaces. All right, so now we can be able to see that actually we have created the dev. So let's check the number of pawns inside the dev. Fix it. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, all of them that is running. Now, let's try to drift the cluster and see what happened. Delete the first pond. You delete it. All right. So now clear this and get the number of pawns. All of them were created 27 is it minutes ago. So we're going to see what happens. So you see, can you see? So you try to delete it, what happened? It was recreated again. So you cannot drift the cluster. Why? Because ArgoCD will not let you do that. Are we good up to this point?
Yeah.
So let's go back to the ArgoCD user interface and see what is happening. ArgoCD user interface. Refresh. Refresh. Click on applications. Applications at the top. Applications. Applications. All right. Refresh this. Let's refresh. All right. It's still healthy. Okay. So it's still healthy. Nothing you can do. Let's return back to the cluster. Let's now get the deployment in the dev namespace. Go ahead and delete the deployment, which means you are trying to delete all the pawns. Awesome. All right. So clear this and go and get it back. Let's rerun the command to get the deployments and see whether it's still there. We deleted it. All right. So nothing is found. Run it again. Nothing is found. Let's go back to the ArgoCD namespace. The ArgoCD user interface. Sorry, user interface. All right. You see what is happening? What's happening?
It's not synchronized. Out of
Out of sync. But if we had selected, instead of manual, we had selected automatic, guess what it will do? It will automatically desync it again. Hey, so we have issues now. Issues. Let's refresh again. We have issues. All right, so now, because we deleted the deployment, it come and tell us that now our application that was healthy is now missing, out of sync. So we want to know what happened. So click on the missing. You see that missing? Missing, not the URL, missing. No, not the URL. You seem to be the status. All right, good. So the service is there, the namespace is there, but our deployment is missing. The sync is okay, but the status is that it is out of sync. The latest one, the last sync was okay, but now the current one is that it's out of status. It's out of sync. Let's click on the three dots under the Nginx deployment. Let's click on the three dots. I wish you can just listen carefully. Let's click on the three dots under the Nginx-deployment. Words are very vital even when you go to the interview. Now, click on details. And it's going to tell us what is happening, okay? Resource not found in this. See that? So let's click on the difference, diff, the diff. All right, so you see, this whole thing is missing. Oof. Why? Because you deleted it. So you can't run away because we will know exactly what is happening. If our application is missing, then what is wrong? See, everything was deleted. So go up. Let's click on desired. So this is what is desired. So now exit. We have seen that somebody has deleted. And of course, we are being told that. So since we have known what has happened, all we need to do is to click on sync. Okay? You just need to sync it. And then, of course, again, just say synchronize. And when you do so, now it is synced, it's in progress. You see, progressing. Waiting for the rollout to finish. 8 of 10 updated replicas are available. You see, it's even able to tell you what is happening. 8 out of 10 are updated replicas are now available. So we give it time to finish. Give it time. I think it's done. Exit the window. And now when you come back here, it is saying that now is healthy again. You good up to this point? Are we good?
Yes, sir.
All right. One more last thing. We go back to the cluster. Let's get the services. All right, so this is a service. So now let's pretend we are not so good in Kubernetes. So we actually don't know how to do this. We don't know what is a GitHub concept. So we're going to do things manually like most people do on YouTube, okay? So
Okay.
we're going to edit this from cluster and try to put what we call load balancer. So we're going to say kubectl edit service. This is manual. Let's see what will happen. Edit service or SVC, the name of the service. We need, of course, the name of the service. And of course, the namespace. It is in. Awesome. So go and look for load balancer and edit it. Edit the cluster IP and edit the cluster IP into a load balancer. The cluster IP into a load balancer. I want you to listen carefully because words are vital. These are the things you're going to hear in the interview. You have to just listen carefully. Otherwise, you miss a lot of questions. You are looking for a cluster. The type is cluster IP, and you are changing that to a load balancer. All I want you to do is just listen because the words give you the hint of what is needed. Don't worry about getting it right. That's not important. The most important is just to listen to the words. We change it to a load balancer. Then we are going to save. Remember how to save. We are not using nano. So, okay. Very good. Very good. Now, let's get the service and see what happened. Very good. It's still pending, okay? So, but it's pending, so what will happen? Let's return back to ArgoCD. User interface. ArgoCD user interface. All right. Again, problems. What can you see?
Out of sync.
What does that mean?
The desired is different from
The running
the
state, okay?
current state.
And by the way, it will show you exactly where the out of sync is happening. So you don't have to be worried. Oh, is it service? Is it deployment? Is it? No, 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 no. It will tell you exactly. So what is out of sync? It is a Nginx service. Let's see. Click on the three dots. Let's see what is going on. Details. All right. So let's scroll down. Keep going. We're gonna do diff. Diff show you the difference. All right, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. And there we go. So you cannot cheat the system. If you go and edit the cluster admin will know. Oh, okay. So let's move our mouse here near the line 85. Yes. So this is the desired state on your right hand side, and the left side is what has been. This is what has been changed. So somebody drifted the cluster manually by editing the service type. But guess what? ArgoCD won't let you do that. It will be able to tell us exactly what you did, and how you did it, and what you changed. And in this case, you change the cluster IP to a load balancer. So it's out of sync. So when we come, very transparent, we can see who did the change. We can see exactly how the changes were done. So let's exit. It's out of sync. We don't like whoever did these changes because they did not do them the right way. So now we go back to the cluster. Go back to the cluster and let's run the command to get the service. It's out of sync. So yes, we are able to get the IP address. And the problem is we said manual. So the next time you do this project, you should do the syncing to be automatic so that if somebody try to change, it does the syncing back to what was there before, okay? But because we said manual, we have to go and resync the changes ourselves so that we can bring back the cluster in synchronization. So let's go back to the ArgoCD. And now let's sync. We just want to sync the service. So we click on the service, sync. Very good. And now you synchronize. And you're done. So let's return back to the cluster. Let's get the service. And it's gone. Okay?
Yeah.
So let's clear this. Now, this is where we come back to our last section, which is the GitHub concept. The GitHub concept means we are applying the changes to our deployment by following the GitHub concept. So what does that mean? If you are in the company and you are using ArgoCD, how are you supposed to change the cluster IP to a load balancer so that we can be able to access the application? Very simple. We go back to the repository that contains our manifest and is the one that is tied to the ArgoCD. Go back to it. Very good. So you get the URL. So let's use Visual Studio Code. It's much easier. So open a bash terminal, easier. Very good. Open a bash terminal. Awesome. So now clone the repository. Okay. Awesome. Keep going. Keep going. Awesome. All right. Keep going. Awesome. Good. So clear this. That's exactly what I expected from you. Now, let's do ls. And now we start to follow the concept of GitOps, okay? The GitOps concept says, one, Git is the only source of truth. If we are going to make changes to any of our application that is running in the Kubernetes, the change must always start from the Git. And we are going to be applying the changes using what we call the Git commit and Git push. Now, let's edit the service. And instead of calling it the cluster IP, we're going to call it the load balancer. Okay? Uh-huh. Mhm. Okay. So we're going to make changes using git commit. Yes. Uh-huh. Mhm. -m. Yeah, but whenever you put, I think the confusion you have is what the use of -n. I don't want you to memorize. I want you to understand. -m means that you have to put a message there. Don't memorize things, just understand them. Even if you're gonna take a minute or two to understand, fine, but just make sure you understand what it is. Can be any message. Load balancer is fine. Okay, so now we good up to this point. Keep going. All right, immediately you push, but this is not going to work like this. In the company, you have to create a pull request. Okay. In the company, we always create pull requests to say that, hey, I'm making some changes to the manifest. Can you review my changes? So we always create what we call a pull request. Then after that, the branch will be protected. And we are going to do that. If the branch is protected, you have to get the permission, approval to be able to merge. But today we don't have that because I want you to see how it's done in the company. And this is what we call the GitHub concept because Git is the only source of truth. And by using Git, we can know who made the changes. Let's now go to your cluster, to your ArgoCD. We have made changes. Let's go to ArgoCD user interface. Let's see what is happening. All right, let's refresh this. All right, so in we need to let's click on the applications. You should always go back to applications because it shows you exactly what is happening. Okay, refresh. You see now it is out of sync. Okay. So it's out of sync. So let's click on out of sync and let's see what is happening. We just did our ArgoCD. We just did a GitHub concept. Okay, service again is out of sync. So let's click on the three dots and see what happens. All right, out of sync. Click on the diff. Fine. Now you can see that allocated load balancer. Keep going. So now there is a change. In this case, the type is cluster, the type is load balancer. So go up, go up, go up, go up. Let's go down a little bit. Desired manifest. Let's look at the desired manifest. Scroll down. This is a desired one, okay? The desired is a load balancer. The one that we have before is a cluster IP. Let's go up. That is because you edited this. Go up. Now there is an event. There is an issue. Click on that event. Yeah, so there is somebody who did something. 8 minutes ago, deleted load balancer. 8 minutes. finalizer service, somebody unexpectedly removed the service. Type load balancer, deleting the load balancer, ensure the load balancer, keep going. It's very transparent, okay? So you cannot change anything without the Kubernetes admin knowing. That's how good it is. So now let's exit. So now we're gonna do something here. Exit. So now I want us to go back to the application before we sync. Applications. And now I would like us to edit. Edit. How do we edit this? I want us to edit this. How do we edit this? Do you know what we need to do to edit? Maybe there. Click on Nginx. Have no idea. We're looking for editing. We need to edit. You can try the three dots there at the top. See the three dots all the way to the top. We see where we have sync. Click on those. Let's see. Click on it. All right, we don't need that. All right, we don't need that. You can just exit. You see on your left-hand side, there is something called details. 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 Click on it. So edit. Let's edit. Now I want us to go down, scroll down. Where is the item? Keep going. We are looking for syncing to be, instead of being manual, enable auto. Okay. All right, so that's very good. So it enable the pruning of the resources and self-healing. So go up, exit. Oh, save, yes. All right, then exit. Very good. Now you can see what happened immediately. It was synced. You see, as in progress is synced, okay? So that is how it happened in the company. So now let's return back to the cluster. So syncing is now automatic. Let's check there. Let's get the services. Awesome, awesome. So let's get the deployment. Good. Delete the deployment. Good. All right, clear this. Get the deployment. All right, keep running. Rerun the command. All right, go back to the ArgoCD. All right, is out of sync. Is not, so there is some things it can sync by itself unless the admin does it, such as something like if you delete a whole deployment, it shout for the admin name to come and check what is happening. So sync it. You click on sync. All right, so we are done. That's how ArgoCD works. Okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
now projects are what help us to be able to separate the applications. If you look at it, this is actually in what we call the default project. I want you to play with this ArgoCD user interface and know how to create a project, okay? It's gonna be on this side, on your left-hand side. It's gonna find a way to create a project. Then I'm gonna leave you with a homework. So go back to your repository, not repository, but your GitHub. I wanna leave you with some homework. Let's look at your repositories. All right, so now Taye, keep scroll down. There is a repository I gave you that had keep all right. So go up a little bit. Look at Taye rolling update. Click on rolling update. All right, so we have Apache resource. Scroll down. I want to show you what to use, okay? All right, click on apache.yaml. Apache.yaml. All right, so now there are a few things I want you to do with this deployment. So scroll down. So I want you to add a namespace to this deployment to be the same as the Nginx that we just deployed, okay? So scroll up. This deployment is missing a namespace and the service is also missing a namespace. So I want you to create a new repository. And this new repository should have the same, you use only this deployment, but I want you to create a manifest for the namespace, and this namespace should be called Apache. You following me? Are you able to follow me?
I'll create a new repository.
You're gonna create a new repository, a brand new one. And this brand new repository will be, you can call it Argo-Apache, okay? I want you to prepare the repository to be in the format that is required by ArgoCD. Okay? I also want you to make sure that you add a namespace. Is missing a namespace. And also, I would like for you to create a manifest for the namespace called Apache. Make sure the deployment is added the namespace called Apache and the service is added the namespace called Apache. Then go ahead and deploy this into the Kubernetes using ArgoCD. Did you get the point?
Mm, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I
Uh-huh.
get that. I get it.
So let's say it again. So you're going to prepare this repository. You already have Josh Nginx prepared for you, so you can look at it and see how the format is. And then prepare this Apache to be in the format that we can deploy into the Kubernetes cluster. Okay? Make sure you add a namespace in the manifest, in the deployment, and also in the service, under the service, and make sure you add another manifest called Apache-namespace.yaml. This should be a repository all by itself. That is your homework. Uh, there are different ways to deployment strategies. We went through rolling update, we went through canary, we went through blue green. Those are very easy one. You have repository for those. Come ready with this project and come ready to have your resume completed. on Tuesday, okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so do you get the point? Try to do it as soon as possible. Create a new repository called Apache, Argo-Apache. Put this apache.yaml manifest inside. Add another manifest called namespace.yaml with a namespace called Apache. And then after that, prepare the new repository to be in the format that is acceptable by the ArgoCD. Then go ahead and deploy. Send me the picture when you succeed, okay?
Yes,
If you have any issue, let me know. But it's an easy case because you already have Nginx to compare with, which I already did for you, okay?
yes, sir.
All right. So any issue, this is our last topic. Any issue?
No issue.
All right. Try the best. And I'll
Yes, sir.
send this homework to you in a few.
All right, sir.
All right.